This submitter was headed home with his wife in the car when he suddenly noticed an oncoming vehicle making straight for them. He managed to turn enough to avoid a head-on collision, but the car still smashed into them. What really sucks is that this happened only 150 feet away from the submitter's house. Missed it by that much. The submitter initially paid about $5,500 to get his car fixed, which took 3 months. After 6 months, the other driver's insurance provider finally paid the submitter for 60% of the repairs. They told him he'd have to get the other 40% from the driver of the red car that had cut the other driver off. After 3 more months, he finally got the rest of the repairs paid for by his own insurance provider. In the accident, one of the submitter's tires was destroyed, and insurance would only pay to replace one, even though tires should always be replaced in pairs. The submitter paid for the second tire out of his own pocket. Jeffrey witnessed an SUV blow right through a stop sign and T-bone another SUV that didn't have a stop sign. The driver of the white Hyundai tried to avoid the impact, but there was nothing they could do. Fortunately, they regained control without hitting Jeffrey's car. The driver who'd run the stop sign jumped out and started freaking out, accusing the other driver of being in the wrong. Fortunately, the driver of the black Volkswagen calmed him down. Jeffrey gave a copy of his footage to the Hyundai driver, which clearly shows that the other guy didn't even slow down for his stop sign. Nick was driving down a slick, wet neighborhood street when he saw a Subaru entering the uncontrolled intersection in front of him. Nick mistakenly assumed the other driver would stop, even though he didn't have a stop sign, and this nearly resulted in a collision. Luckily, he was able to swerve and apply his non-ABS brakes with the right timing to avoid an accident. Both drivers stopped and got out, and they were able to laugh about the situation instead of getting angry, which is a good thing for Nick. Remember, at an uncontrolled intersection, traffic that arrives first has the right of way. This submitter was cut off by a reckless SUV driver while on his way home from work. The submitter suspects the driver was relying too heavily on their GPS and not paying attention to the road signs, ending up in the wrong lane by mistake. I tend to think they made this move on purpose just to get around traffic. What do you think? Let us know in a comment. Tien had watched 2 traffic cops pass him a ways back, so he didn't expect to see them up ahead. Evidently, they hadn't expected him to be there either. His brakes locked up, and he slid forward until his tires regained traction and allowed him to swerve at the last second. This submitter had left his vehicle parked at a friend's house when he heard the sound of a collision through an open window. They both rushed over to see another car leaving the scene. The submitter's friend took off after the car to get the license plate number while the submitter checked his dashcam footage. They then called the police and they were able to track down the driver. The other driver didn't speak Danish and said they didn't know that leaving the scene of an accident was illegal. The guy offered to pay for the $2,200 in damage, and they see each other occasionally and are on good terms. The submitter says dashcams are definitely worth having. His newest setup sees in all directions and cost him $2,000, but he says it has already saved him from $8,500 in repairs from accidents. Brian was running late on his way to work and decided to continue through a yellow light, which is legal, by the way. Another driver failed to yield the right-of-way to Brian, nearly causing him to T-bone them in the intersection. Luckily, Brian was paying better attention than they were. Pro tip, it's legal to enter an intersection on a yellow light even if it turns red before you clear the intersection. It's not okay to turn in front of oncoming traffic that has the right-of-way. Christian was driving down a California highway with poor lane markings when he watched a Tesla sideswipe another car. He suspects that either the driver or autopilot might have been misled by the multiple overlapping markings, but I'm not sure this would be enough to cause the car to ignore a clearly visible vehicle. Steve was driving down a twisty road when the driver of a Dodge Charger started tailgating him before deciding to pass on a blind corner. Fortunately for the Charger driver, the driver of the oncoming car actually knows what they're doing and managed to save them both from a head-on collision. Steve says, add another vote to the Dodge column for most dangerous brand. Luigi was driving about 50 miles per hour down an Italian highway in heavy snow when he started to lose control.
Tranquillo. Ecco, vai piano. Abbiamo scoperto perché bisogna andare piano.
Luigi's passenger was saying, "Be careful and slow down," over and over. And Luigi finally said, "Calm down, I'm in control," right there at the end. They continued on a little slower than before. This submitter witnessed some road rage between an impatient Honda driver and the driver of a van. The van driver tried to get back into his lane after passing slower traffic, but this just enraged the Honda driver. The Honda driver got out of his his car, at a red light to confront the van driver, but he didn't have time to do much more than yell. Eventually, the Honda driver maneuvered in front of the van, then brake-checked it almost to a total stop. The joke's on him, though. A BMW driver took the opportunity to jump in front of him. Avon was going about 40 miles per hour on a Serbian highway when the driver of a box truck made an illegal U-turn across his lane, forcing him to come to a complete stop. Avon honked, and so did a bunch of other drivers. He says this sort of thing is very common at this intersection, with an accident occurring here at least once per day. Andrew was driving his F-150 down a road in Tennessee when one guy pushed another into the street right in front of him. Andrew called 911 to report what had happened, but he never heard back and doesn't know what happened after he left. Mike was driving down a highway when the car in front of him kicked up a sheet of glass. He filed an insurance claim to fix the damage, and his insurance provider is covering the repair costs. Cosmin was driving his Peugeot when he came to a bridge being worked on. Only one lane was open, so traffic was being regulated by a temporary traffic light. When his light turned green, he started to cross the bridge, but so did this guy. Cosmin and his friends just laughed about it while the old man was forced to back up. He thinks the guy probably just didn't understand what was going on. Cosmin wanted us to ask what our American viewers think of the Peugeot car brand. Of course, they aren't sold here, but comment below if you have any thoughts about them to share anyway. Do you have a dashcam video that you want to share with us? Please send the video together with a description of what happened using the link in the description below.